Hello everyone and welcome. You're watching Eagle News. I'm EJ Gonzalez in Washington. It's Saturday, March 5, 2022, here in the nation's capital. This week's stories. Ukraine's Zelensky accuses Russia of nuclear terror after attacking a power plant. Ukrainians in Panama seek help from President Laurentino Cortizo to slap sanctions against Russia for invading their motherland. DC begins distributing KN95 masks for kids. Pennsylvania transitions toward endemic. Nevada lifts its mask mandate in most public places. And a poll reveals that economic strength remains as the top issue for Americans. Ontario lifts all capacity restrictions and removes proof of vaccination mandate. Chinook blast warms up Calgary's winter nights. Correspondent at large Thomas Likeness talks about ways to consume news wisely. Oceania at a glance reports about Western Australia reopening its borders and welcoming interstate and international travelers. Plus, Papua New Guinea remembers Michael Somare's legacy on his first death anniversary. Embassy Files tells us that notable works of Japanese manga artist and animator Satoshi are made available for virtual screening. Color My World gives travelers a very interesting tip when caught in a long layover in Phoenix. EBC Sports International brings us part 2 of our interview with Anthony Volpe as he shares with us his and his family's reaction to getting drafted by the Yankees. Health is Wealth speaks to 2 individuals who have just completed the daily push-up challenge. Let's find out what motivates them. Plus, Behind the Counter shares with us Aika Era's recipe for crunchy chicken katsu. Get those aprons ready. Our coverage begins now. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky accuses Russia of resorting to nuclear terror. After invading Russian forces shot at a nuclear power plant in Ukraine, Zelensky says it appears Moscow wants to repeat the Chernobyl disaster.
Звертаюся до всіх українців, до всіх європейців, до всіх людей, хто знає слово Чорнобиль, хто знає, скільки горя і жертв приніс вибух на атомній станції. Це була глобальна катастрофа. З її наслідками боролися сотні тисяч людей, евакуювали десятки тисяч людей. Росія хоче це повторити і вже повторює, але у 6 разів більше. Ми зв'язалися з нашими лідерами, з партнерами. Я говорив вже з Шарлем Мішелем, Шольцем, говорив з Дудою, говорив з президентом Байденом. Ми зв'язалися з головою МАГАТЕ Гросі, також прем'єр-міністром Джонсоном. Ми всіх попереджаємо. Жодна держава, окрім Росії, ніколи не обстрілювала атомні енергоблоки. Це вперше в нашій історії, в історії людства, держава-терорист вдалася і до ядерного терору.
Meanwhile, a group of 50 Ukrainians and Russians living in Panama and opposed to the war want the Central American country to ban Russian ships from the Panama Canal. In a letter to Panamanian President Laurentino Cortizo, they ask him to prohibit Russian commercial and military ships from passing through the canal until Russia ends its war with Ukraine. The Ukrainians say Panama should join other countries that have imposed sanctions on Russia to stop Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. They note Turkey has banned Russian ships from a key shipping route in that region. In their letter, they refer to Putin as a dictator who has violated all international human rights standards, principles of self-determination of people, and peaceful coexistence. Under a treaty signed in 1977, the canal is supposed to remain neutral in the event of an international conflict. Closure of the canal to Russian ships would be mainly symbolic. The amount of Russian traffic through the canal is minimal. In other news, even though Washington, D.C. has lifted its mask mandate, the city's COVID centers are making sure kids are safe. Eagle News correspondent Jessica Bautista tells us it is giving away high-quality masks designed to fit smaller faces.
Washington, D.C.'s COVID centers have begun giving away free child-sized KN95 masks. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser says residents are allowed to collect up to 10 free child-sized masks at the city's official D.C. Health COVID centers. Proof of D.C. residency is needed to collect these masks, which will be available at locations in all 8 wards. Aside from the free masks for children, the COVID centers are also providing vaccines, booster shots, rapid COVID tests, PCR tests, and masks for adults. While other local governments are providing free masks for adults, Washington, D.C. is the first one in the DMV region to provide free child-sized KN95 masks to the public. Jessica Bautista, Eagle News, Washington, D.C.
Thanks, Jessica. Now in Pennsylvania, COVID-19 cases have dropped to the point where the pandemic has evolved into an endemic stage. That means the infection will always be present, something like the common cold or the flu. EBC's Myla Sambulan updates us on how the state is handling that transition.
The Pennsylvania Department of Health provides an update on the Commonwealth's response to the pandemic and highlights preparations to continue protecting public health as the state transitions toward the endemic stage of COVID-19.
Despite this progress, COVID-19 is not going away. But Pennsylvania is well positioned with the tools, knowledge, and resources that we have to prioritize prevention in everyday life and manage future outbreaks when they occur. Vaccines are widely available for everyone ages 5 and older. In fact, this week, Pennsylvania vaccine providers have administered more than 22 million COVID-19 vaccines across all 67 counties. More than 76% of adults are fully vaccinated, and 95% of adults have received at least one vaccination. Vaccinations remain our best defense against the virus, and it's great to see thousands of residents stepping forward each day to get vaccinated. That's why we're prepared to move beyond the current phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. Aside from continued vaccinations, we know that the key to our transition will be a strong public health infrastructure that can support our needs as we move into the next phase of our response and recovery.
During the Omicron surge, the Wolf administration has deployed both state and federal support systems to hospitals and long-term care facilities. It has simultaneously expanded the testing network along with vaccine and booster outreach. In the past year, Pennsylvania's strategic response to COVID-19 has included initiatives such as continuing to raise vaccination rates and encourage boosters through awareness campaigns, including targeting hard-to-reach communities, organizing support for healthcare workers, hospitals, and long-term care facilities as needed, maintaining a stockpile of PPE, supporting no-cost COVID-19 testing sites in communities, helping K-12 school districts and school-age families maintain in-person learning by continuing to provide weekly COVID-19 testing services at no cost to participate in schools, educating counties, municipalities, and health systems about the federal reimbursement available to them for eligible COVID-related expenses, providing funding grassroots organizations for vaccine outreach efforts to enable them to serve as trusted messengers in vaccine-hesitant communities to provide information that the COVID-19 vaccine is a safe and effective way to protect themselves and their loved ones from the virus, coordinating with federal and private partners to enable timely broad access to therapeutics that reduce the risk of severe disease. Today, vaccines and therapeutic treatments are widely available across the state. Businesses, schools, and residents now have the tools and knowledge they need to move beyond the current phase of COVID-19. Myla Simbulan, Eagle News, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Myla. Now in Nevada, face masks are no longer required in most public settings. More on that story from Las Vegas, Bureau Chief Anna Kui.
Nevada joined most U.S. states in lifting its mask mandate, and the CDC releases new guidelines on gauging community risk for COVID-19 transmission. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak announced that masks will no longer be required in public places, including indoors, but there are locations where they may still be required, such as in hospitals, clinics, and long-term care facilities. He also added that federally, masks are still mandated in airports, in planes, and in other public transportation. The federal mask mandate in airplanes is set to expire on March 18. Removal of the mask mandate poses a personal choice whether to continue or not to continue to wear a mask when out in public.
For me, myself, I'm extremely happy that I don't have to keep walking into stores and keep remembering to bring my mask in, so I think it was a good time to end it.
So I still wear mine because I still feel safest when I have it out, or wear it when I'm out and about. Also, I feel like this thing's not over yet, so it's best to I feel more comfortable keeping my mask on.
In the third week since the mask mandate ended in Nevada, total number of cases, test positivity rate, and hospitalization have trended down. But according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, these metrics are no longer the gold standards they use in determining the level of risk for community disease transmission. The new guidelines focus instead on hospital capacity and the percentage of COVID-related admissions, in addition to having fewer than or more than 200 new cases per 100,000 within a 7-day average. Based on this data, a community is classified as having low, medium, or high level of COVID-19 transmission. Clark County, where Las Vegas is located, falls into the medium category. What do these different levels mean, and what do we need to know about them? Well, if you live in a community having a low or medium risk for disease transmission, then the CDC recommends getting updated with your vaccination and getting tested, especially if you're symptomatic. But if your community falls into the high-risk category, then wearing a mask indoors in public is also recommended, in addition to vaccination and testing. While the Southern Nevada Health District recognizes the new guidelines set by the CDC, local health experts continue to remind residents that there is always potential for new variants to develop, and the best way to protect themselves is to get vaccinated and boosted when eligible. Speaking of vaccination, according to official data, Nevada is reported to have over 56% of the population of 5 years and older as being fully vaccinated. According to recent data from the CDC, over 69% of U.S. counties has a high level of community transmission. Anna Cui, Eagle News, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thanks, Anna. Now, what's on the minds of most Americans? EBC's Rafaela Tigno had a look at a recent public opinion poll and found the number one concern is dollars and cents.
It is no secret that this pandemic and other pressing issues such as making ends meet and international conflict have made many Americans weary of what is to come within this year. Still, many citizens have high expectations from the current administration on how their lives can be improved. In a recent public opinion poll from Pew Research Center, Americans reveal what they consider high priorities, which in turn can provide data in assisting leaders in their strategies to address such concerns. Like many years before, this poll has found that strengthening the economy is the top issue for Americans, as 71% polled placed this first on their list of what matters most to them. These opinions likely stem from a combination of rising costs for basic necessities like food, gas, healthcare, and housing prices. In addition, many matters that related to the economy, such as increasing jobs and bettering their pay rate, improving education to obtain such jobs, and especially working towards helping Americans in poverty, also polled at level from 40 to 60%, indicating that the era of pandemic has made securing a stable career and future a much more difficult task than before.
However, the number of Americans concerned about the pandemic has decreased from 78% in 2021 to only 60% in 2022. Young people 18 to 49 years old are significantly less likely to consider the pandemic a pressing issue compared to their older counterparts, who may be worried that they are still vulnerable to catching the virus. Lastly, this poll was able to capture American opinions regarding the tension between Russia and the US, especially in light of the military situation involving Russia and Ukraine. In early January, a third of Americans polled reported they did not know much about the reasoning behind these two countries' conflict, and another third considered the military buildup of Russia near Ukraine's border as a major threat. Concerns related to terrorism, war, and economic decline are likely to rise as uncertainty and speculation plagues Americans from getting a clear view of what to expect from Russia and the US. The fact that Americans hold a laundry list of goals for their government and an expectation that clear and accessible information and result will follow demonstrate the enormity of the work that must be done as more difficult times continue to manifest. Rafaela Tigno, Eagle News, Los Angeles.
Thanks, Rafaela. Now, up in Canada, the province of Ontario has eliminated most of its pandemic restrictions. We get the details from Eagle News correspondent April Masongsong.
This week in Ontario, all capacity restrictions are lifted and vaccination requirements are now removed. As of Tuesday, March 1st, proof of vaccination is no longer required at most Ontario establishments like restaurants, cinemas, and gyms. Capacity limits are also lifted on social gathering sizes. Premier Doug Ford says that requiring proof of vaccination has always been a time-limited restriction. COVID cases and hospitalizations have fallen since January, though PCR testing has also been limited. Some establishments, like the Toronto Zoo, have chosen to keep vaccination requirements and masking policy, regardless of the province lifting these restrictions. At a press conference earlier this week, the Premier has mentioned that the province isn't far from dropping the province-wide mask mandate. The Children's Health Coalition, a collective of children's health organizations in Ontario, have released a statement as a response to this possibility. For now, let's ensure kids remain as healthy as they can in schools by keeping masks on. Masking in indoor school settings protects children and their families. As soon as the evidence suggests otherwise, then alternatives can be considered. Opposition party the Ontario NDP says that vaccine certificates keep all Ontarians safe, and that by framing them as restrictions, Ford is sending a dangerous signal that appeases a small minority of anti-vaxxers and occupiers. April Masongsong, Eagle News, Toronto.
Thank you, April. Now, in the western Canadian city of Calgary, they've come up with an alternative to spending winter nights indoors, trying to keep warm by a fire. EBC's Tiffany Alisasis says people can take in all kinds of activities and they are all outdoors.
Winter, When you think of that word, you think of freezing cold temperatures, wanting to stay at home with a warm hot chocolate, thinking about all that snow you gotta shovel. Well, here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, a winter festival that warms up the city with celebrations of community and culture. This winter festival, known as Chinook Blast, shows the best of Calgary's art, light shows, live music, performances, and many more, which will all be displayed here. This event gives a chance to embrace the season and show that in this part of the world, we are not afraid of a little cold. So let's go check it out.
In the month of February, every weekend in different parts of downtown Calgary, Chinook Blast proudly features 100% local artists, talents, volunteers, and businesses. This event brings so many things to do, such as enjoy some local entertainment and live music within the downtown core. And guess what? It's all free. This weekend, you can enjoy a bunch of music from folk, salsa, pop, R&B, and electric. While skating front row or sitting on the bleachers by the fire pits to warm up and groove to some music. Different performances such as local bands like Super Duty Tough Work, Canadian performer Cadence Weapon, and performance theater like One Yellow Rabbit. Now let's all head over to look at the lights. Check out these unique light installations by local artists of Glowfest YYC. Glowfest has partnered with Chinook Blast to help light up the winter's darkest days. This is the only festival of its kind here. Glow artists use light as a medium to create immersive, family-friendly activations, performances, and art installations. Each night, multiple spaces around downtown core public places expanded an array of installations, projections, and light art commissioned from artists, representing national talent in a variety of background and experience. This winter event features incredible artists from around the country with a special focus on artists from Western Canada. This event gives an opportunity for Canadian artists to showcase their work and engage with the community of Calgary.
Wow, that was so much fun. I hope you enjoyed it as well. That rounds up our Winterfest for today, and we'll see you again next year. From Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Tiffany Ellis-Hassis, Eagle News.
Thanks, Tiffany. Now, how do you use the news media wisely? That's the theme of this week's commentary by our correspondent at large, Thomas I. Likeness. Thomas?
And now news and commentary from around the globe. The world gets more dangerous. War in Ukraine, talk of possible nuclear war. People taking to the streets with minimal weapons, trying to stop the Russian military from taking over their independent country. That's right, an independent country that has its own democratically elected government. You see here on the screen the damage being done. I'm not going to talk about what's happening on the ground there. That situation is changing too rapidly. My colleagues with Eagle News International and our website at eaglenews.net can keep you up to date with those developments. Instead, let's talk about how this invasion is being covered by the news media. One issue that has concerned many countries is whether to allow Russian media to continue broadcasting in their nations. Now, here in Canada, several major cable distributors have dropped the Russian television channel RT. Same is true in a number of European countries. In the United States, the National Association of Broadcasters wants broadcasters to cease carrying any state-sponsored programming with ties to the Russian government or its agents. The association says the U.S. must stand united against misinformation and support freedom and democracy across the globe. Initially, I had the same feeling as the NAB, but that's changed. Why? Well, first, let me give you a lesson on how to consume media. Rule number 1, consider the source. And by that, I mean, what is the agenda of the source of the story? In the case of state-controlled media, it's obvious. The media is there to advance the agenda of the government. You won't see any balance. You won't see any viewpoints opposed to the government. And you will probably hear them bleating about the fake news of the mainstream media. Fake news. It's apparently a buzzword for anything that a person doesn't agree with. If you decide to watch Russian TV, I suggest you balance it with reports from more independent sources. Some of those sources include major newswire services. AFP, it's the oldest newswire in the world. We use it here at Eagle News. It's also European-based. There's also the Associated Press and Reuters, both reliable sources. The British Broadcasting Corporation World Service, also credible. and there are several American news networks. What I'm saying is, be a wise consumer of news. Don't look for an echo chamber that promotes your point of view. For the record, I worked in mainstream media for 37 years in both Canada and the United States for several media outlets, and in that time, management never told me to present a certain point of view. There is no big conspiracy where we're told to pull our punches and report only what supports management's point of view. Again, whatever you read, whatever you watch or listen to, consider the source. Realize that state-controlled media doesn't give you anything close to the whole story. So why don't I think Russian media should be banned? Simple. It gives us insight into what the Russian government is thinking and what it's telling its own citizens. So again, consume news wisely. I'll be back in 7 days, and in the ensuing week, I wish you all peace, joy, and happiness. Thomas I. Likeness, correspondent at large, Eagle News.
Thanks, Thomas. Now, some long overdue good news for people in Western Australia. EBC's Abigail Karungay tells us after 2 years of virtual isolation, the state is rolling out the welcome mat for visitors from other states as well as other countries.
Western Australia reopened its borders on March 3, welcoming back both interstate and international travel. Starting 12:01 a.m. on March 3, travelers no longer need exemptions or compassionate grounds to enter the state. This is a welcome relief for both residents and businesses. However, interstate travelers must be triple vaccinated, have a booster shot. Triple vaccinated travelers have no need to quarantine at all. Just take a rapid antigen test, or RAT, within 12 hours and report the result, isolating if positive, of course. The RAT will be provided for free by border officials. The move is widely welcomed by both residents of WA and interstate. Just a month earlier, Premier Mark McGowan had been criticized for backtracking on his initial plan to reopen the state. With the sudden emergence of the Omicron variant, plans were delayed indefinitely to increase the rate of booster shots and observe the progress of outbreaks in other states. WA held a third dose vaccination blitz, raising booster percentages to over 50% of the eligible population in the span of just 2.5 weeks. The fall of the hard border, however, means the return of general restrictions. This includes the 2 square meter rule and capped capacities for venues. This comes as WA confirms more cases, with nearly 7,000 active cases reported on March 2. Government case modeling estimates a peak of 10,000 cases in late March, an inevitable increase as borders reopen. The reopening of Western Australia has caused excitement. After nearly 2 years, it has finally rejoined the rest of Australia. Abigail Krungay, Shenya at a Glance, Eagle News.
Thank you, Abigail. Meanwhile, in Papua New Guinea, Eagle News correspondent Echo Hortaleza Quinola takes a look at the legacy of Sir Michael Thomas Somare.
Today, here at the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium, Papua New Guinea commemorates Grand Chief Sir Michael Thomas Somare's first death anniversary.
Today is a public holiday, and the public joins the country's officials led by Prime Minister Honorable James Marape to remember Sir Somare's values and principles considered still relevant by many in this country. The tribute is spearheaded by the National Capital District Governor, Honorable Paul Sparkle. In his speech, he recalls how the Grand Chief had united diverse ethnicities into one nation through independence, fighting corruption, advocating for peace, and respecting the rule of laws.
Let us always remember Grand Chief Somare and all he has done for our country, for our people. We must remember the lessons that he has taught us, and we must look forward to the future with confidence, with strength and courage, to continue to build a great country.
Meanwhile, Honorable Prime Minister James Marape in his speech addresses men of Papua New Guinea. He reiterates the importance of respecting women. It is a message passed on from Sir Somare and a virtue Marape encourages Papua New Guineans to stand for.
Today I speak as the Prime Minister, the Chief Servant of our country, walking in his footsteps, that this date will forever be honored as a date in which Somare will be remembered for his contribution to our country. If we want our country to be truly great, our wives, our daughters, our girls, our female in our country must be protected at all costs. He took me into his inner sanctum to show me one very important thing. Mr. Prime Minister, keep your wife, keep your daughter, keep your female in your country closest to her, because he kept women closest to his heart. Somare is Papua New Guinea, and Papua New Guinea is Somare.
Papua New Guineans are reminded of Sir Michael Thomas Somare's legacy that brought forth independence enjoyed here today in the land of the unexpected. Eko Hortaleza Quinola, Oceania at a glance, Eagle News.
Thanks, Echo. Now, if Japanese anime is your thing, you'll love this exhibit in Washington, D.C. In this edition of Embassy Files, EBC's Arlene Ocampo tells us about a display of the works of anime director Satoshi Kon.
The National Museum of Asian Art, the Japan Information and Cultural Center, and the Embassy of Japan collaborate to present a nostalgic set of virtual screenings of the late Satoshi Kon. Satoshi Kon was an influential anime director. To celebrate his achievements in Japanese film, his cherished titles can be viewed virtually. The last screening will include a new documentary about his life and his achievements called Satoshi Kon, The Illusionist. This film was directed by Pascal Alex Vincent, a French filmmaker. Satoshi Kon, born in 1963, passed away in 2010. He was a Japanese film director, manga artist, screenwriter, and animator. He passed away at the climax of his career, leaving behind an impressive collection of films that is still being enjoyed all over the world. These virtual screenings will run through March 26th to April 10th, 2022. Please visit us.emb-japan-go.jp for more details in regards to the movie times and titles. Stay tuned to Eagle News for more from the nation's capital. Arlene Ocampo, Embassy Files, Eagle News.
Thanks, Arlene. Now, have you ever found yourself in a long layover at an airport? Well, Eagle News Texas correspondent Nanita Manawis recently discovered a pleasant way to pass time at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport by using the SkyTrain to squeeze in some scenic destinations.
Being stuck in the airport for long layovers does not have to be unpleasant. It can even be an adventure in itself. Today, I will share with you how my 7-hour wait at the airport became a mini vacation in Phoenix, Arizona.
I was able to get some helpful tips from one of the airport volunteers whose goal is to help make airport guests feel more comfortable.
Phoenix Airport, we are called navigators, and we help people around. Now this young lady just asked me about things to do for 7 hours. I gave her several options off of our light rail, museums, restaurants, Papago Park, which is a nice place to walk around. And so there are a lot of things to do without staying here at the airport.
If you only have a short layover, there are a variety of museum exhibits available at Terminal 3 and 4 of the Sky Harbor Airport. Passengers with at least 6 hours to kill, however, have the opportunity to head up and explore Phoenix and surrounding cities like Tempe and Scottsdale using the Speedy Transit system.
We have a connection by the SkyTrain, takes you to it, and you can utilize the light rail on this map, shows you where it goes. And And there are all kinds of things. Down here would be downtown Phoenix. And this is downtown Tempe in this direction. Did I get that upside down? Yeah. So you could go either way here.
ValleyMetro.org provides public transit schedules, maps, and additional resources to help travelers navigate their way around the Phoenix area and more. A full day pass is only $4. From the airport, you can hop onto the SkyTrain and then switch to the Valley Metro Rail to go into downtown Phoenix, where you can visit top destinations like the Heard Museum, which was founded in 1929 and it specializes in Native American and Southwest art. Perhaps you prefer to get in touch with nature without venturing too far. Try exploring the Papago Park, which is known for its distinctive geological formations formed 5 to 6 million years ago. Enjoy the scenic views, the small lakes, and the variety of desert plants. Hike up to the hole in the rock. Take cold selfies and see the city of Phoenix from the top of this major landmark. However way you decide to spend your layover, be sure to give yourself plenty of time to get back to the airport for a quick meal or maybe a sweet treat before catching your next flight. Meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed this Phoenix Airport layover tour.
Anita Manawis, Color by World, Eagle News.
Thanks, Nanita. Now, last week, we were introduced to New York Yankees draft pick Anthony Volpe. Today, let's hear more from his family on the talented player's life in baseball.
For any professional athlete, their defining moment in their careers is the moment they were drafted on a team.
With the 30th selection of the 2019 MLB Draft, the New York Yankees select Anthony.
That defining moment is something their families will always cherish. For Olivia Volpe, hearing her brother Anthony get drafted by the New York Yankees brought tears to her eyes.
I cried. Yeah, I think everybody cried. But I think when the moment actually came, it was years and years and years of hard work. And then it all led up to this one moment where it made all those sacrifices worth it. And I have witnessed those sacrifices myself through my own eyes and seen how much it takes to get to that level.
And for Anthony's parents, Michael and Isabel, they couldn't be more proud of their son, who is currently living his dream with the iconic team's farm system.
Obviously, you just want him, to succeed, live up his dreams, and just support him throughout his whole journey. We're just going to be there to make sure he has all the support that he needs, and be his biggest fans.
It's a long journey. He has a long way to go. I know he's told me he wants to not just make it to the major league, but win multiple championships in the major leagues.
Yeah.
If that's his dream, then I want to support him. It would be great. But no matter what he does, I'm going to be proud of him.
It's rare in the sports world that any local athlete gets drafted to their hometown team. LeBron James, that kid from Akron, Ohio, is one of the few athletes lucky to be drafted by his hometown team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Back in 2016, the King brought the city its first sports title in 50 years. Anthony, who was born in Manhattan and raised in nearby Somerset County, New Jersey, hopes to achieve success with the Yankees and win multiple World Series titles in his career.
You grow up playing and working so hard to win World Series, and not just one World Series, but be the player that you grew up watching, that was part of those dynasty teams that won a lot of World Series. So I just want to work really hard to become the best player I can be. Definitely more short-term goal oriented than long-term, winning World Series one day, because hopefully that will be a byproduct of all the hard work I'm putting in now.
For most athletes, fortune and fame are the top priority. But for Anthony Volpe, it's family first over fortune and fame. Carlo Valdez, EBC Sports International, New Jersey.
Thanks, Carlo. Meanwhile, it's always a struggle to stay in shape. And as we hear in this edition of Health is Wealth, the key is motivation. EBC's Frendel Fajarin brings us that story.
Health is wealth. How are those muscles feeling? Are they feeling a little different from the last time we seen ya, or are they feeling the same? If they're feeling the same, all good. That just means you haven't pushed yourself a little differently. You haven't worked out your body since the last time we met. And if your muscles are feeling different, kudos to you. In the last two segments, we heard from licensed amateur boxer Jericho Montefalcon. He shared with us some tips on how we can do upper and lower body movement. Now, I had a chance to complete a push-up challenge for the entire month of February. A few friends and I committed to doing 25 push-ups a day. It's amazing how those few minutes spent to do those 25 push-ups every day have transformed our daily living, how it transformed our perspective, and transformed our outlook on our health. Today I'm really excited because we get to meet from two of our EBC friends, Art Trinidad, originally from Hawaii, now living in Seattle, and our friend RR, all the way from the Philippines. Take a listen.
My prior fitness, it's working out twice a day.
Basketball, and then my field work, shooting outside. That's it. No workout at all, no exercise. But I always do stretching in the morning.
I was like, yes, let's do this.
No brainer. I said yes right away with that.
To work out more.
The discipline is the best thing that happened about that challenge.
To live life to the fullest and to be healthy.
Health is wealth because how can we do the things that we love if we're sick? Health is wealth, really. A lot of people really suffer from sickness. Moreover, there are a lot that are affected by the virus, by the COVID. So it is really one of the perfect time for us to really look out for our health, to be strong, to watch out for our body, for our health, in order for us to continue what we're doing and to achieve our goals, to reach out for those dreams that we have in mind. So yeah. That's right. It's doing what you love and love what you do. But how can we do it if we're sick?
What's up?
A special shout out to Jericho Montefalcon. I would personally want to thank you for the tips that you have shared with us from the previous episode. I'm quite excited to apply those tips, on my future workouts. Yes, I will too. So thank you so much for that, and keep being an inspiration to other people.
Strengthening our bodies through exercise is just one fun way to keep ourselves healthy. Now, for your own health and safety, before you commit to any new fitness program, make sure that you consult with your doctor. Health is wealth. Frendel Fajarin, Eagle News.
Thanks, Frendel. And thank you to Art and RR. Now, we go behind the counter this week where EBC's Aika Era shows us how to make the Japanese comfort food crunchy chicken katsu.
Hey, I'm Aika, and welcome back to Behind the Counter, where we see easy and tasty meals be brought to life. To our old chicks of the trade again, and back to cooking some simple chicken recipes. Here's one that we've definitely been checking out: chicken katsu. for full recipes, and if there's a dish that you'd like to see, let us know in the comments below. Catch us on eaglenewslive.com, on our Eagle News YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Check back next week when we go behind the counter.
Thanks, Aika, for making us all crave that chicken katsu. I am hungry. And thank you all for watching. View, like, share our other shows. City Limits with Alan Basalyahe. Connected with Dr. David. Take a Seat and Join Us with Anna Kui. Plate Date with Michael Hudson and friends. Plus Journey, Stories of Filipinos in Canada with Kathleen Cruz. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Eagle News Live. I am EJ Gonzalez. Happy weekend, everyone.